Let me see you in the chat. Yes. Yeah, I love how active you are in the chat. Keep it up. All right, how many of you, let me see in the chat. By the way, I love how active you're being in the chat. I'm reading every single message. How many of you thought of at least 2 people that you wish were here to hear that presentation? Yeah, I see the hands in the audience. How about you at home? Yeah, and I did, you guys, I'm reading everything that you're writing, and I did see that you all want to know where in the world this presentation is going to be. I don't know if we are going to release the recording, but I do know it's going to be available in the Facebook group. So add people to this Facebook group, and they can come back and watch this live, all right? Our next speaker is Dr. Tamara Sachs. She's a dear friend of mine. Tamara is a doctor. Dr. Tamara Sachs graduated with honors from Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York City. Prior to obtaining her bachelor's degree in molecular biology and physiology, she studied naturopathic medicine in France. She has been a functional medicine doctor since 2003, preventing and treating the root causes, not just the symptoms. Please welcome my dear friend, Dr. Tamara Sachs. Love you.
Hey, my people. It's so nice to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much, Christy. I have to go backwards. There we go. One more. So you heard from Christy that I do what's called functional medicine, and that's treating the root cause of things, not just the symptoms. How many of you all would like all of your doctors to treat the root causes of your problems, not just your symptoms? Yeah, that's why I call functional medicine medicine, just good medicine the way it should be. And a huge part of functional medicine is education. And I love teaching people how their body works, because I think that if you understand how your body works, you're going to make better decisions for yourself and your family. So my intention today is to teach you a little something about health span. Our lifespan, of course, is how many years that we live, but our health span is how many of those years we're active and fit and sharp and independent. And it turns out that our health span has a lot to do with something called our mitochondria. So I'm going to tell you a little something about our mitochondria, and I'm going to tell you 6 things that the science of mitochondria has taught us about health span and how to improve our health span. So mitochondria, you might be asking, what is that? That little thing in orange. It's the powerhouse of the cell. It's the part of our body that makes energy from food. And it's quite a remarkable thing. And we have hundreds or thousands or more of mitochondria in every cell. Every animal on this planet is powered by mitochondria. And we've known that for about 50 years, but in the last 15 years, there's a whole bunch of new research out there about the role of mitochondria in aging and in lifespan. And this mitochondria has an interesting origin. Eons ago, when in our world there were just plants and one-celled organism, there was this little bacteria that had this unique and special skill of knowing how to transform energy, transforming it from one kind of energy to another. And that little bacteria somehow teamed up with a one-celled organism and started providing that one-celled organism with a steady supply of energy. And that is what has allowed life on this planet to get more complex. But they were bacteria before they were mitochondria, and so they still have bacterial DNA. Mitochondria have their own DNA, just a little bit, just enough to make the structures that they need to make energy from our food. But it's still kind of odd that we have bacterial DNA that run the engine of our cells. So this DNA has a limited ability to repair itself, but mitochondria can repair itself. They can fuse, they can join, and they can split off sections that have been damaged or injured. And just to remind you, our DNA, what we think of as the book of life, our genes, that's totally separate. It's in the nucleus of the cell, in the middle of that little blue blob on your screen. That's where our genetic material is held, and we can repair our genetic material pretty well. But mitochondria are separate from the nucleus of the cell, and their DNA should remain separate because bacterial DNA in the circulation doesn't make the immune system very happy. A little bit actually can trigger healing, but a lot can send us into a bit of a tailspin. The other, I think, fun fact about mitochondria is that we only inherit them from our mothers. All mitochondria come from all mothers, all the way back to the first mother. And that's because sperm mitochondria self-destructs when the egg is fertilized, so all that's left is mom's mitochondria to be passed down. Little biology fun fact. Aging. All roads lead to mitochondria. This is part of the research that I was talking about in the last 15 years or so that's really made a huge difference to the longevity research. So the primary focus of a mitochondria is still making energy, but there seems to be a lot more that mitochondria control than just energy. But energy is huge, right? Energy gets us through the day. Otherwise, we're this. So energy is a main prime purpose of the mitochondria. We need energy to do our daily activities, but we also need energy to withstand the forces of time and wear and tear on our bodies and gravity, aging, all these things that we're trying to slow down. That's what mitochondria help us do over time. And when they fail, we age faster. But recently, there's all this new research about what mitochondria also do. And these are just quick studies in the last 1 year about the role of mitochondria in health and disease and inflammation, in aging, but also in all sorts of new areas that we never thought mitochondria were involved with, like diabetes, like spinal cord injuries, like traumatic brain injuries. And what that's doing is opening up a whole new area of research into how we can maybe treat and prevent diseases that were never before thought of. So nutritional support to help mitochondria stay healthy. Down the horizon, there'll be medications to help mitochondria stay healthy. And eventually, maybe transplanting mitochondria to help people regain motor skills after an accident where they've had a spinal cord injury or brain injury. All that's kind of interesting. So the research that we're going to talk about, the lifestyle changes we're going to talk about that help us with our health span come from research in these areas. So clearly energy is the first most important role of mitochondria. But then we have fertility. It turns out that human eggs have the most mitochondria of any cell on the planet, upwards of 500,000 to 1 million mitochondria per cell. So fertility is hugely controlled by mitochondrial health. The brain takes up a small amount of room, but has a large impact and uses a lot of energy. And Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and brain injuries are all very hot areas of mitochondrial research right now. And the gut, the microbiome, the place where we have 10 times more bacteria than we have human cells, the place that is our second brain that communicates with our immune system, our microbiome and our mitochondria speak. They speak the same language. They're bacteria. And then our microbiome and our immune system are intimately connected, and it turns out that the effect of our mitochondria on our immune system is also huge, even though immune cells don't have a lot of mitochondria, but they're affected by the health of the overall body's mitochondria. And wherever the immune system is, inflammation goes. And there's a lot of research on mitochondria and inflammation as well. And then muscle, right? That makes sense, energy. So muscles require that the mitochondria can provide a burst of energy whenever we ask it to. We go from lying down sleeping to running a race, and mitochondria can handle that. The heart mitochondria, however, are very different. They require a steady energy production every single minute of the day, we hope, from before you were born till the day you die. So the mitochondria of the heart are being studied separately in heart disease and cardiovascular disease. And then, of course, aging, what we're talking about here, lifespan and aging are also being big time looked into in terms of mitochondrial research. So before I tell you a little bit about this lifespan, these things, the 6 things that we can all do to improve our lifespan, let me tell you just a little bit about this energy factory that is this mitochondria. So every mitochondria has this system of membranes inside of it. And what a mitochondria does is it takes our food and makes our energy. So let's just talk about glucose, right? A sugar molecule. Mitochondria will take a sugar molecule inside and strip it right down to its most basic unit, its electrons. That's the energy of our food. And then they pass these electrons down this chain in these membranes and repackage that energy into little batteries. We call them ATP, but they're batteries. They're little batteries of portable energy. And then the mitochondria can let those little batteries of ATP out, and the cell can do its work. We can do our work. We can think and dance and create and sing. All the things that we do require energy. But these are electrons, right? Electrons, electricity, hot, burns, dangerous. Free radicals are from electrons. Damage to our DNA comes from electrons. So how does this little mitochondria withstand the damage of electrons on its membranes? Well, it has an innate system, nutritional system, to defend itself against the damage of these electrons. But it can be injured. And so the most important thing for protecting your mitochondria from this potential damage is the overall level of the antioxidants in your body, the overall level of them and the variety of them. That's the number one thing mitochondria need to stay healthy and not be damaged. Because the damaged mitochondria, like you see up there with very few membranes, cannot make enough batteries from your food. It makes way less than it should, and so you are more tired than you should be. So just before we get into these 6 great things that we can all do, just for the geeks and the science nerds in the room, just real quickly, I know there's a few of you, right? So the damage to our mitochondrial DNA and our mitochondria themselves accumulates over time. And so the ability of a mitochondria to make energy without harming itself from those electrons is key to our longevity. And when some damage does occur, because it does, there needs to be a healthy way for them to split off the damaged part and fuse together to make healthier and bigger mitochondria. And all of that comes together. The number of healthy mitochondria you have per cell signals not just that cell, but your whole body. It signals the whole body as to the health of your lifespan. If mitochondria are damaged very slowly, they can be absorbed, no problem. But if mitochondria are damaged suddenly, they explode. And a little bit of that mitochondrial DNA getting out, as I mentioned, can help promote some healing. But when a lot of mitochondrial DNA or contents spill out into the cell, especially if it spills out into the circulation, then you can get into trouble. And we think that maybe shock and multiple trauma, that's why sometimes we can't save people. There have been too many mitochondria damaged and released into the circulation. So, what are the 6 areas that we can talk about? Now that you have some background into what mitochondria are, there are 6 things we know from this science, from this research, that we can all do to help. So the first is our brain. Number 1 is sleep. You gotta sleep, folks. You gotta sleep at least 7 hours a night, or you will not have a healthy health span. It just can't happen. You also have to feed your brain. Your brain believes everything you tell it. So you have to feed it gratitude and joy and good thoughts and balance the stress and negativity of the world if you're gonna have a good health span. I see my. The third thing is exercise. Actually, any form of exercise is a wonderful anti-aging medication, if you will, habit. But there's 2 in particular that have data in terms of mitochondria and health span, and those 2 are endurance training and high interval training, HIIT. Those two seem to help mitochondria get stronger and bigger and healthier health span. But again, any exercise is better than none. The fourth is intermittent fasting and calorie restrictions. So calorie restriction has been shown in very controlled circumstances to improve health span by a lot. But the key is very controlled circumstances. The studies were done giving people optimal nutrition, just a smaller amount of calories. Intermittent fasting, same thing. I think everybody should do 12 hours on, 12 hours off. It's good for everybody to give your gut and your whole system 12 hours of not eating. Beyond 12 hours, you have to just be careful that you're getting enough food and enough good nutrition in the smaller amount of time that you're eating. Because if you're only eating 2 meals a day, it becomes even harder to get enough produce into your diet. The last two were about food. So antioxidant levels, I mentioned already, no surprise that having to eat a really rich Mediterranean plant-based diet is critical for health span. The data's huge on this. There's data on heart disease, on Alzheimer's, on inflammation. Almost anything you can think of in terms of a disease or a condition has evidence that a Mediterranean plant-based diet will help. And the last, again, is our microbiome. So feeding your microbiome, feeding your gut, good, healthy plant fibers are critical to having a good, long health span. So I'm going to let you guys focus on the top three: sleep, exercise, brain thinking, positive thinking. And I'm going to focus on the last three and give you some practical tips as to how we can really move this health span into a bigger time period. So the first, I think we talked about already, is plants. Casey did a great job. The importance of a plant-based diet, the colorful antioxidants just cannot be overstated. So eat a lot of colorful plants. Make more than half your plate produce, non-starchy vegetables. The current recommendation is 7 to 13 servings. Good luck. That means if you don't get 3 at each meal, you're already in trouble. So do that with a variety of plants, all the different colors of the rainbow, both raw and cooked every single day. That's key. The consistency of getting these nutrients in your body every day is key, because your mitochondria are working every second of the day, getting those electrons, and if they don't have protection, you're going to have damage. So the sad truth is that only 1 in 10 Americans get anything close to enough produce. So I am thrilled that I have been able to be eating Juice Plus capsules for about 20 years now. And it's funny to me because I was so cynical. I was so skeptical. I was cynical. I was rude. I said, you can't do this. This doesn't work. And little by little, I came to understand that the company is committed to science, to integrity, to innovation, to doing things right, to small farms. And so I became more and more aware that this was something kind of special. And then I read the research, and I understood that these wonderful fruit, vegetables, and berries that were grown so carefully by this company were processed in such a way that they get absorbed into the bloodstream, as Casey told us, and get into the cell, and that the cell then functions better. That's the ultimate in health and prevention. That's all that we need to do, is have a cell function better every single day. So the research is really what got me involved. And I could spend all day talking about the research, but fortunately, you won't have to listen to that. Casey already mentioned a few things, and there are over 42 now published studies looking at this research. It's nerd heaven. If you're a science geek, just reading these studies will teach you a lot about molecular biology and health, even if you don't understand certain parts of it. But just to not forget to mention a couple of quick things that I can't help but. The science does show a couple of things that are really, really important to note. The first is we have significant studies showing improvement in memory and cognitive ability. And then Casey mentioned the immune system and inflammation, and there's also studies on postoperative healing and gum health and skin health and lung health. And there's just a long list of benefits that have been proven over and over to be seen when people take Juice Plus versus placebo. And these are, of course, all randomized controlled clinical trials, the gold standard of research, published in major journals done by the top scientists in their field. The Healthy Starts Family Program was mentioned already, but the results that have been gathered for the last 20 years looking at these families on Juice Plus is very impressive. And if you have children and they're not taking Juice Plus, please look at the results of this Family Health Start study, because it's quite impressive. And what can I possibly say about towers that Stephen didn't just say, except that if you don't have one, you want one. I've had several, 2, 3, or 4. For many years, I grow indoors and out all year. The food tastes so much better. It's more nutritious. It's fresher than you can buy in a store, and it saved me a fortune over the years. So the second thing that you can do for your health span, the second, maybe the fourth we're up to, is your microbiome. So real quickly, your microbiome needs plant fiber to function. That's how it works. You give your body plant fiber, the microbiome in your gut digests it and makes stuff that we need, and that in turn keeps us healthier. And there's no way around that. This is just a study that was done, and I thought was a really interesting tie-in between mitochondria and the microbiome. This just shows that when a healthy gut, oops, I'm on the wrong slide, sorry. When a healthy gut is given good plant fibers, they make something called short-chain fatty acids, or butyrate. Butyrate's an important thing. We really need a lot of butyrate, and our microbiome is what makes our butyrate. And when we're given enough plant fibers to make butyrate, that signals the mitochondria, and in turn, that improves athletic performance. Much improved athletic performance. It's all connected, folks. We're all connected. And this is a study showing Juice Plus capsules, which we already know the microbiome loves, and adding Complete, the protein powder that's plant-based as well that we make. And when you put those two things together, the microbiome gets better. There's more variety in the microbiome, and we found that it makes more butyrate. Therefore, better athletic function and better health overall and health span. This is Complete. It's my breakfast. It's delicious. It's a great way to get more plants, more plant antioxidants, and a lot of fiber and slow burn carbs to last you all day. So the third and last thing we're going to talk about is calorie restriction and intermittent fasting. And as I mentioned, there's some risks to that. You have to be very careful that you get enough nutrition when you do this. And so there's a wonderful way to make that all come together. And that's a program called Shred 10. And Shred 10 was invented by my dear friend and brilliant colleague, Mitra Ray, who's here somewhere. And it's just simply putting all of these 6 things together in a simple program that anyone can safely do. And it's about losing bad habits and gaining good ones. It's not about shredding anything particularly. It's about supporting your body in a healthy way. And there is a lot of support for people who want to do a Shred 10. There's cookbooks and support groups and all sorts of information to make it possible. And, you know, it doesn't have to be 10 days. Sorry, Mitra, but a 3-day shred is better than no shred. And a modified 10 days is better than none at all. Do what you can and build on that. So just to summarize, the 6 things we can all do to improve our health span and our mitochondria's health in turn is to sleep 7 hours at least, to meditate, to use mindfulness, to balance stress and joy and feed your brain good, important information, to try for endurance exercise or any exercise at all, or high-intensity training. And then to reduce free radical damage and oxidative stress by eating a hugely colorful plant-based diet, and consider adding Juice Plus capsules to your diet to bridge that gap between what you do eat and what you think you should eat. And then feeding your microbiome more fiber, so adding, again, more plants, but also just Complete. Makes it easy. It's delicious and it solves a lot of problems, and now your microbiome is going to make more butyrate, and your athletic performance will improve, and so will your health span. And then lastly, caloric restriction or intermittent fasting with the Shred 10 program makes it safe and doable for everybody. And so those are the 3 new things that you can add to the 3 other things to help your health span improve. So I wish you all a long health span, and I hope this was helpful. Thank you.